you. Hi, everybody. My name is Cheryl Muriel, and I am going to present to you the Whiteboard Fi, which this is not your average whiteboard. So Whiteboard Fi is a digital tool, and it is awesome for in-person teaching and virtual teaching. I've used it for both, and it works either way. Now, I am going to explain to you how to use the Whiteboard Fi as the free version. They do offer a version that you can pay for that's a basic or a premium, but I'm only going to talk about the free version. And as we go on, I can point out the benefits of the ones that you pay for, but I am only going to use the Whiteboard free version. And I've only used the free version, so I've never paid for it. So there are so many amazing benefits of the Whiteboard Fi. I picture whenever I teach that I would love it if all of my students were just lined up along a whiteboard and I would give them a problem to solve. I'm a math teacher, by the way. If I gave them a problem to solve, and I would be able to see everybody solve the problem step by step right in front of me. And how amazing would that be? And they could not see each other's work, because that's the key, that they can't see each other's work. And that's exactly what Whiteboard Fi does, is that it allows you to stand behind all of your students and be able to watch them all at one time as they do the work. Another benefit is I feel like there are some students who are afraid to participate. Maybe they're not real confident in what they're doing. And so they don't answer questions, or they don't, maybe they don't even do it. This is a way that everybody can participate because it is very private. They can only see themselves, like you can only see, they only see themselves, and they can't see each other as they're doing the work. So for one thing, it's private, so they can't cheat. Another thing is that they don't have to feel bad. So if they get a wrong answer, nobody knows but you. And I think that that is a really big key, and it really encourages them to just give it a try, because it's just between you and them. Now, the Whiteboard Fi works on all devices. I've had students use iPads, computers, phones, a lot of times on phones, especially working at HCC. I work at the Harford Community College. I teach the math GED program, and I have a lot of the adults who are using their phones, and it does work very well. I teach high school also, and I've used it with my students on their computers. There's no installation. It is actually, Whiteboard Fi is a part of the Kahoot family. And I know that most of you guys are probably all familiar with Kahoot. And it is very similar, that you don't have to download anything. You don't have to give any information. And everything, after you close the class, everything is deleted. So there's no problem with information being shared. It's very safe. It can be used in all subject areas. And like I said, I teach the GED program at Harford Community College, but you could use this in English and history and music. I mean, there's all subject areas you could use this. I'm going to show you a class using math, but then we'll talk about at the end on how we could incorporate this into other subject areas. You're going to import. Now, you have some choices on your whiteboard. You can either write on the board and ask questions, or you could actually import questions, worksheets, anything that you want. I import a lot of pictures of graphs. It gives me an opportunity to let the students like graph lines or write equations that represent a graph or a coordinate plane. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And again, with all subject areas, because you can upload images, it allows you to use it in so many different areas, subject areas to teach. One of the things that I use Whiteboard Fi for also, besides just me being able to monitor my students, their progress and how they understand the lesson and the concept and the steps, but it also boosts their confidence, because like I said, this is between you and them, but I could share my screen and share specific students' work. And what I normally do is say, oh, this is so awesome. I'm going to show you guys what Beth did today. And I would share Beth's screen. And this allows the students to learn from each other. Instead of them always just seeing my work, it allows you to share other students' screens. I usually say like, Beth, do you mind? I'm going to share your screen. And of course they want to be highlighted because obviously they did it correctly. And that's why you're sharing it. And it allows you to just boost their confidence that they are doing something correct. And it makes them feel good, especially those students who are a little more shy that normally don't participate. This is a way to get them more involved in the class. Again, I am going to only show you the free version. I'm going to show you now how to set up a class. Now, I am not very good with technology, so I was able to learn this with just very simple instructions, and that's all I'm going to give you is the very basic instructions on how to set up a class. And then we'll actually go on to a class and you can see it as a student, and then you'll be able to see it as the teacher. So I'm going to use the free version. Now, the benefit of the paid version is that you can actually set up a class and then save it. So you could use that same class every time, kind of like how Kahoot, how you use those Kahoot games all the time. The difference is that I could set up a Whiteboard FI class in about 1 minute. Yeah, it's that fast. And all you have to do is have your images saved on a desktop or something if you want to put images, but you can set up a class really, really fast, because I have lost classes before because I've set them up too far in advance for when I'm presenting them, and then maybe they went away, and I was able to set it up very quickly. So having it as a paid version doesn't bother me, but you may want it otherwise. So how to set up a Whiteboard FI class. All you do is go to the web, and we're going to do this in a few minutes. I'll have you actually do it. So if you just hold off waiting and just watching the instructions, you would go to the Whiteboard FI and you really just click on New Class. I type in my name or sometimes the class. This is what's going to be displayed for the students whenever they enter the classroom. So you could say your name or you could say the class, just so they know that they're in the right place. And then you just click on Create New Class. This is the screen that comes up. This screen is just showing you the room code and the URL. Now, if you are in person, then you can use this room code and just like write it on your board, and the students would just go to Whiteboard FI and enter in that room code, just like Kahoot. If you are virtual, then you would copy this URL, and when you're ready to invite the students to your class, you would just put it in the chat. So that is the option we're going to do today. Not yet, but pretty soon. The most important thing I would say is that you just click on right here, toggle my whiteboard. This is how you actually set up the class. So I think everything is very self-explanatory as long as you know to click right here on toggle my whiteboard. And that is where you come into the whiteboard that you are going to set up. There is a toolbar at the top of the whiteboard. And again, it's so self-explanatory, and I feel bad even explaining to you what each one is, but just so that you have an idea of what there are, what's listed in the tools, you can draw or write. I would say I use this the most. You can draw, if you have a touch screen, you could draw on your screen. If you don't, you can draw using your mouse. I have an actual pad that I have attached to my computer with a pen, and I write on the board, and it goes onto the whiteboard. So, I mean, that's a little more advanced, but that's because I use it so much. So, but you have several options. The students, again, they will use that same pen. And what my students usually use is the touch screen, or sometimes they use their mouse. So it just really depends. Now there is there's a tool on here that you can draw straight lines, which is kind of funny that it took me several weeks to find that. And that's why I'm pointing that out, because when you are graphing, if you're a math teacher like me, and you are giving them coordinate planes to graph lines, it's really hard to draw a straight line. And when I found that straight line and I told my students, hey, there's a straight line tool, it really helped a lot because that allows them to just put that straight line versus try and draw that straight line on the grid. There's, of course, shapes, where, of course, you can use that in any subject area. And then there's a tool that you can type. So let's say you're an English teacher or a history teacher, you could put it on type and you could type in a whole paragraph if you want and save it on a page. And then I'll show you in a minute how you would push that out to the students so everybody will see what you set up on that board. So you could type it. And then again, very important for me as a math teacher is insert image. I have a bunch of images saved on my desktop in a folder called images. And what I do is I insert those images, and that's why I can set up the classroom so quickly, is because I have these coordinate planes and graphs and different things that I use regularly that I can just insert those images. It's just like having a worksheet, like passing out a worksheet, except it's digital. There's two places that you can erase. You really have to point this out to your students about how to erase, because using the scissors is really the easiest, but you have to click on the item with the pointer. So there's a pointer in the top left-hand corner. You click on the item you want erased, then you click on the scissors and it will erase just what you wrote. Versus at the bottom, there's an eraser, and that is just like an eraser where you have to erase. And if you are erasing, so in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a coordinate plane where you can draw a line on. If you try and erase that with the eraser, then it's going to erase the coordinate plane also. So it'll erase the image. So make sure you tell your students that to be very careful with the eraser and use the scissors instead. There's a copy and paste in case you are putting similar things on every page that you want to send out to your students. You can change the color, which I thought this was great for English. If I typed up a paragraph and had the students underline the nouns in red and circle the verbs in green or something, you could change those colors to make it really obvious and they can see it. And again, here's that eraser. There is a grid for a coordinate plane. I find it easier to just insert the image because then you have your X and Y axis already on the grid. But again, you can use that grid. And there's also, and I'm not going to go into all these because obviously you can figure all these tools out. There's emojis and there's math signs and there's music notes. So there's so many really super cool things on here that you'll be able to experiment with. Now at the very bottom of your whiteboard, you'll see a plus sign. And when I set up my class, I just click on plus like 10 times, just so that I have 10 clean whiteboards. These are your whiteboards. It's kind of like your worksheets that you are going to use and you are going to push out to your students. So each board is what you're going to push to the students. So I usually just add a whole bunch and then I just start with the very first one. Notice as you write on the board, it shows up at the very bottom. So for example, this one I wrote just a problem, 3x plus 2 equals 11. And I put that as my first one. And then maybe I wanted to make it clearer and I typed the second one. So then I typed my next question in for the second board. And let's say I want to put an image in the third board. So I go to that import image and I go to my images, my folder on my desktop, and I import one of my coordinate planes and it just appears on my whiteboard. And then I could type in a question. With me, like I said, I have them I use this a lot for graphing lines. So I might type in the equation that I want them to graph. And then maybe just make another board where I'm just writing something. So what we're going to do now is I am going to demonstrate what the student sees. So you have three choices. You can just go in as a student, and Ramona is going to put the link into the chat where you'll be able to join me into the classroom as a student. Or you can just watch what I see. Now, remember, normally I don't share my screen and everybody doesn't see everybody's work. I'm sharing it just so that you can see what the teacher is seeing. So you can just watch what I see, or you could open 2 windows and watch what I see and then also be a student. So you can have 2 windows open and be able to see both if you would like. So I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint, and Ramona's going to, and I would say the difference between the Jamboard and Whiteboard FI is when you use Jamboard, everybody can they can go onto the different pages. So that is more collaborative. And I like that because that has a lot of benefits because you can have people work together. When Whiteboard is just that student. So the student, it's just the students and the teacher who can use the whiteboard, who can see the whiteboard. It's not collaborative. And see, whenever I teach like high school, I don't want the students to be able to go onto each other's pages. I don't want them to be able to jump around. And so it's a little bit different. Whenever I've used Jamboard, I always go back to Whiteboard FI. I feel more, I feel like it's a little bit easier for the students and a little more private, but it's just a preference. It really is. I mean, both of them are really awesome digital tools to use. So the link is in the chat, and that's where I want you to go. And I am going to go to the actual whiteboard, and notice I am on my whiteboard. And notice as the students, which are all of you, came in, your whiteboards are just appearing. So these are all the whiteboards. So this is going to be like me looking over all of your shoulders. So I can see Amy and Donna and Eileen. I can see everybody as they work. Now, whenever I start a class, what I normally do is tell the students to draw me a picture of how you feel. This gives everybody an opportunity to get familiar with the toolbar. And it also lets me get to see how the students are feeling, right? Usually they put like a picture with like sleepy or tired or whatever. But I want you guys, as you are coming into the classroom, draw a picture of how you feel. Use the pen, use the typing, use the emojis, whatever you feel comfortable with. Experiment with the colors. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get into the whiteboard because everybody's internet's a little different on speed. And as you're coming in, just experiment a little bit and just show me a picture of how you feel. I'm going to click on toggle my whiteboard so that you can see my classes in the top. This is what I have that I'm going to share with everybody. And underneath are the student whiteboards. So in real time, well, internet time, I can see what everybody is writing. So I see Glenn is thinking about math. That is, Haley is happy. Carol, beautiful picture of your flower. So this gives you an idea. Oh my gosh, this is awesome, Shauna. I love it. And you always have that student who who draws a really super cool picture. So I like it. So I'm excited for you to learn this tool also, because I will tell you, this saved my life. Teaching virtual with the GED program, this was a way that I was able to engage all of my people every single class. So all of their practice work was always done on Whiteboard FI, and it worked really well. Excellent job. Okay, you guys, so you all look awesome. And so as a teacher, if you're looking at my screen, this is what I see. I see all of the students on the board drawing their picture on how they feel. Now here on top is what I have my class set up. Now I'm going to click on this first board that I want to send out to the students. And all I do is I click. See on the top right-hand corner, there is a button. It says push. I'm going to click push, and I'm clicking push to students current page only. Now you can experiment with this. This is the way I do it. And the reason is that I only want them to, because I'm going to change it and I'm going to give them a different problem each time. So I'm only clicking to current students, current pages. Now notice it's going to appear everybody who's online. Now, like Amy must have, either the internet is slow or she got knocked off. That's why it's not appearing on her board. And I noticed that a lot. Now, once you share that, you can't reshare it or it will erase everybody's work. Okay, so what everybody's going to do now is I want you to just use your pen and I want you to solve for why, showing all of your steps on the board. So show your steps on the board on how you would solve for why. I made this nice and simple and basic for you. There we go. So you're going to solve for why. There we go, Pamela. And again, if I was teaching a regular class, I would not be sharing all the students' work. I would be keeping this to myself and I would only be able to see everybody. But when I start seeing everybody finish and I can see like who's struggling, and I might say, oh, Rhonda, make sure that you subtract X from both sides. Like I can give little helpful hints. That way that helps them boost them along. But then what I normally do is I'll say, I'll find somebody's who did it correctly. And like, I'll pick Haley. Haley, I hope that's okay. And I'll highlight Haley's work and I'll say, oh, I'm going to share my board now. And I want everybody to look at Haley's work. Notice that Haley subtracted X from both sides, canceled out those X's on the left side, and ended up with Y equals 3 minus X, which was an awesome job. So great job, Haley. Another one, MPL, also fabulous job, subtracted that X from both sides, ended up with that Y equals negative X plus 3. And you can write it either way. There we go. Rhonda, awesome job, Rhonda. Here we go. And Rhonda's showing that. Now, Rhonda put her line through the equal sign, just like we did in class, because whatever we do the left side, we do the right side. And that kind of helps you know that you put that Y equals negative X plus 3. And you can write it in either way, because the commutative property allows you to switch the order. So great job, everybody. Now we are going to go to the next one. Now this next question, I am going to push out to you. So I'm going to push to all students, is that I want you to actually graph this line. I'm giving you an equation in slope-intercept form, and I want you to graph the line Y equals 1/2 X plus 2. So this is a way for the students, and what Haley's doing, I would definitely say is probably the easiest way, is to put your points and then go to your line tool and draw your line. So I would definitely say that putting your points down first with your pen and then drawing your line will be the easiest way. So as everybody does that in the class, I keep an eye on it and I see who's doing it correctly. I give some helpful hints. And then Haley, if you don't mind, I'm going to share your screen. This is awesome. This is an example of how to graph this line. Notice Haley put that point at 2 on the Y axis because that was her starting point. The slope is 1/2, so she rose 1 and ran to the right 2. She put several points with the slope of 1/2 and then connected those points with her line. So awesome job. Haley is a math teacher, I am assuming. There we go. Awesome job, you guys. And again, it allows everybody to participate. And I'm going to show you one more board. Again, this is just completely up to you on how you would do it. I like to sometimes put a board that's already has a graph, because again, you can use any image you want. I just go on and I ask the students to write an equation that matches that graph. And this allows you to, like I said, it's just a worksheet, and it's each individual problem on the worksheet you are giving out to the students. And of course, you take your time and you take those teaching moments and demonstrate. You can draw on your board, so you can actually show your board and you can show the answer yourself by drawing on your board and sharing this board. So I could write right here and write what my equation is. Or I can demonstrate by showing the students. So you can write on the board and share that also. So that's completely up to you. So here we go. Awesome, you guys.
So we have two people that are asking about the highlighting. They're asking how you do the highlighting. They're not sure how that works.
The highlighting, I don't know what you mean by highlighting.
The statement says, I'm not seeing the highlight, it works. And then somebody asked, how do you highlight again?
Highlights. I'm not sure what they mean about highlighting it. As in like demonstrating the student's work maybe. So I'm just clicking on, so I click on the board that I'm showing. So
Yeah, highlighting one student's work.
Okay, just if you click on their board, then it brings their board like full screen. So how I just clicked on Haley's board, it brought Haley's board up full screen. So you would only focus on what Haley did versus, you know, like you can't see all the students' work.
So something saying, but we don't see it. I can tell you, I can see it. The students that you are highlighting.
Okay. The only way that you can highlight it, so I think I know what they mean. So when you are on as a student, you are only seeing your board. And the only way that you can see what I'm highlighting is if the students, I tell my students to have two windows open, to have the window open with their whiteboard, but then also have me on another board so that they can click over and see what I am presenting. So if I'm on the Zoom and I share it, so I would have to share my screen and then pull up their work. I think that's what you mean. So yes, it's not going to come up when I highlight the student work. It's not going to come up on the student board. It's going to come up. It can only be shown on mine as me sharing it. Okay.
Yes, they're thanking you for clarifying.
Okay, there we go. That's a great question. You know, I didn't really think about that, is that the students, you know, yeah, they can't see it, you know, in that way. Okay. So now what I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing my board then. Okay, you guys. So now it's actually, and it's funny because somebody said about that it's the less savvy students. I have had students, especially at HCC, who are not very savvy on technology, and they were able to do it. They really were able to go on. And yes, when you push a new screen out, it does make everybody's work disappear. And so you have to be careful with the pacing, because if I am doing if I'm showing a screen and we're all doing the work, and there are students who are a little bit slower than others, you do have to give that pause. And then you have to say, okay, everybody, we are going to go to the next question, and your work is going to disappear. And they can't make corrections on it, at least on the free version. But what I sometimes do is share my screen, and I can show them how to do it correctly. So if, let's say, nobody got the answer correct, I can share my screen and I can write on my board. But again, like kind of like what you guys are saying, is that the students, it's not going to appear on their screen. They are going to have to switch to the shared screen. There we go. Okay. And if it disappears, it's gone forever. Yes. And that's that's something that we talked about before, is that it is gone. But on the paid version, I'm pretty sure in the paid version, there are benefits in that way that you can save people's work, and that you have a few other options with that. But with the free version, it's gone. Like once you push out a new screen, I do have sometimes some issues with internet. So let's say one student, their internet keeps going out, and then they lose it, and then they're unable to see what they did. So like if their internet goes out, like if their internet glitches and then I pushed out something, then they won't get that board. And that's why also I have to go somewhat fast. And yeah, you can take screenshots in order to revisit the problem. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things that you can use that for, and you could have a whole little folder, and as the students are working, and again, like I keep track of the students, like for the GED program, you have to monitor them as if they are mastering certain skills. And so you can take screenshots so that you can come back to that later and say, okay, well, because you could take a screenshot of the entire screen of all the students' work and then say, and say, okay, well, these are the students who mastered it this many times, okay? So what I want you guys to do now is just take this time and go to the whiteboard. Go to the Whiteboard Fi and just sign in and set up a class. So just set up a class yourself. And remember, this way I'm going to give you guys like 5 minutes to set up a class so that you can ask me any questions. I can share my board, or you can and we can talk about it if you get stuck. But it really is self-explanatory on setting up a class. You really just go on, and you put in your name and your information, and just like Kahoot, and hit that start a class, and you're good to go. And as you're starting to set up your whiteboard class, I want you to start thinking about what are some ways that you could use this in other subject areas, not just math. So how could you use this in English? Maybe we can talk about it in about 5 minutes about some ways that you're thinking that you could use Whiteboard Fi in a class other than math, or maybe math and you just want to use it in a different way than what I did. So I'm going to give everybody some time. Go on to that Whiteboard Fi, start your class, and let me know if you have any questions. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I just closed the room as a student. So now, just in case that was causing you any issues with getting onto it on your own. Okay, so social studies prep by importing graphs and visually commonly seen in social studies. Yes, and we were talking about that, Rhonda and I were talking about that with social studies with a history class, like putting events and putting them in order, importing graphs, exactly, like things that they'll see in that subject area. That's awesome. I think there's a lot of ways to use that in any type of history or social studies class, because you can put those visuals in and allow the students to look at those visuals. So thank you.
Okay, so it looks like somebody's having some difficulty with forming an account.
Well, what I did was I ended the class. So I ended the class. So now try it now that I went in and closed the class that you guys were just in. And I think now you'll be able to go in, because it just took me a minute to close the class. You can't go in? Okay, so somebody was able to make a class. So you should be able to, once I close that class, you see resuming class. Try and go to the, go to like the right-hand corner and see if there's a way that you can exit the class. Is there a way that you can exit the class? Or refresh your screen? Yeah, okay. So as in, I don't think that they can, on the free version, you can, if you created a list of items, yeah, and you can add text, the students could, I always thought they could put numbers and order them. Exactly. Like, I think that that's a great thing, is putting things in order with anything that you could list of items and put them in order, number them. You could draw lines on what they go to. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know, those of you who it's still coming up as the old class, I'm not sure why that's doing it, because you should be able to, once, yeah, as soon as you exited and you opened a new tab, then you should be able to log in. That's it. Okay, good. So yeah, and it's funny because Rhonda reminded me that I had to close my class, and you have to actually go to the whiteboard.fi. So don't go back to the link. So don't go back to the link that I sent you. Actually go to Whiteboard Fi. So the link I sent you would take you to the class that I made. Okay, so you did all those things, and yeah, I'm not sure why, because I closed my class, and as long as you're going to the actual Whiteboard Fi and you're not going to the class that I set up, you should be able to just start as a fresh person, because they shouldn't know you. It should just be like somebody new coming. Okay, awesome, good. Oh, so how do you experiment with the class? So the only way that you can do that is, I actually did it with 2 computers. Like, I set up a class whenever I first learned how to do this, because I was like, well, how, like, I don't know anything about this, like, what's going to happen? So I set up the class, and then I got that class code, and then I went onto my phone or another computer, and I logged in as a student. And I was able to see, or maybe I might even have had my stepdaughter or somebody do it, and they went in as the student. So that way you could see what they had. Yeah, exactly. Using 2 devices is really, or get your family member. Exactly. Like, I've had many times had somebody else, could you be a student? Like, actually last night I had my son go on a Zoom with me. So yes, always having that second person to practice. Yeah, and I hope that, really, Lynn, this has changed my life in teaching online. And I am always going to use it, because at school, I can't always walk behind everybody and see what everybody's doing. And actually, when you're in person, what's nice about it is that I always had that problem, that if it was a long, complicated equation and I was having everybody do it, nobody wanted to copy it down. And this way, you're giving it to them. So thank you. Thank you, Susan. So that's why this is even better than being in person and having them on the board and everybody having their own board, because you have the equations or the questions or whatever all written down and you can see it. But it definitely, it changed everything with the GED program, because my participants, my students, they needed that feedback, and they needed that constant reassurance, and they needed me to see what they were doing. You are welcome. I hope that you guys love it like I do. I really just wanted to, I got into this to do this presentation because of how much it's helped me. I just wanted to share it with you guys. Yes, erasing students' work. So erasing the students' work, that was really difficult, because when they used that eraser, it would mess it all up. But then I discovered that those scissors, and the scissors changed everything, because then I was like, oh, you guys, you can erase just what you wrote. I don't think that you can, on the free version, you can't write notes to the students on their whiteboard. So the only way you can communicate with them is really just saying it out to the whole class, which I know that's good or bad. Sometimes it helps because other people can hear you and learn from you also, but I can't, I don't think that you can say it, you can't write it on the free version. You know, with printing the work off, I'm sure that there's some way that you could copy your screen and then print it out on a Word document. That's probably the best way that I would do it. Again, the free version, you're limited to some things, and I always just try and make that work. Yes, to share at the very beginning, it has the link. See the code, but not the link. So hit toggle my whiteboard again. So click on toggle my whiteboard and that beginning screen should come up. So that's a way to go back and forth to the screen that has your code and then the screen that has your whiteboard. Thank you, Donna. And the download tab, I've never used it, Ingrid, because I always use the free version, but there may be some ways that you can download or you can save their screen. I just haven't gone that far. Yeah, so I'm sure that there's other things that under the settings, yeah, like I think that there's way more you can do than what I've used it for. And that's like, if you guys to take that extra step and go learn more about it or do more advanced, there's so many things, I'm sure, just like with Kahoot. I mean, how long did it take me to figure out that I could set up a class and share it individually? So, and they're changing it too all the time because they're always updating because so many people use it. So under the settings link, save them. Yeah, because I think that there was a way to save things. I just wasn't sure about the free version if they let you. I was thinking that on the paid version, there were certain features on that. But again, they may have updated it and offered more things to allow you to do that because everybody asked for it because it's such a great thing. So awesome job, everybody. I love it. I'm glad that you guys, hopefully everybody, and hopefully I answered all those questions. And I hope that you got that link again, Susan. And so I think I answered everything. If you guys have any. Oh, thanks, Lynn. That's just like that day I went to the professional development that taught me how to use Kahoot, and you walk away thinking, oh my gosh, like this just changed my life. So there's always those those one things that you're really going to use, right? Those tools. And Donna, I do use it every day. I use it all the time. College and high school, I use it all the time. Okay, good. So you did download the screens to a PDF. Okay, that's awesome. See, Eileen, I've never even done that. I thought that you could, you just had to screenshot it. Okay, good, Mary. I know. It's fun though, and it's fun to draw on it, and you'll get better and your students will get better also. And I even got those pens for the kids at school that have the way to write on it. Now, using it with Teams, because I know HCC uses Teams, the thing with Teams is that I found that you have to have, it's the same thing as I just used, that they have to have two screens open, but they have to be able to see the chat in Teams. And we went through that a lot with the students because some students can't see the chat because they're not registered in Teams. So as long as they can get the link on the chat, or you show them the class code, then they're good because it's just two screens open. So with whatever way you're talking to them virtually, you just have them open two windows so that you can open up the whiteboard, but it doesn't automatically come in. You're welcome. Thanks, Glenn. Yes, Shauna, it is. It's a game changer. Definitely. And importing those images, I mean, I haven't gone so far as I only import like the images that I save. but you can you can import, I think, PDFs and everything. I think you can put a whole worksheet on there, and you could have the kids, like you could just have one page and have them just working on that. So if you had a subject area that they were taking a test, I mean, you could have them do a test on this. If you had the test downloaded and all the questions and they just wrote on it, as long as it's something easy they could write, like multiple choice, it would be a way for you to see them as they work. There we go. I know, Donna, and I could see, you know, like getting confused maybe about it at the beginning, and then it's so overwhelming when we first start teaching virtual that you're introduced to so many tools, and then sometimes some of them get lost, and then you can go back to it. Can you load free worksheets from the other apps? Exactly. You're so overwhelmed. Can you load free worksheets from other apps? I'm not sure. You would have to try that. I've never done it. I really only upload, images right now because that's how I use it. I use it for very basic reasons. But as we all become more familiar and more comfortable with the different tools, and I honestly, I would consider even paying for it because I use it so much. So if they said they were going to take it away from me, I would pay the $5 a month or whatever it is. And then it might be a whole different story again. I know, like, who knows what doors that will open, being able to have the extra benefits for how much I use the free one. Yes, yeah, definitely, Peg. And it's just a matter of becoming familiar with it. And I really use it in class. Like I'm going to use it. I use it now in person because I can have my people in person. When I have people in person and online, so you can use it in both ways. Exactly. You know, what I like the most, Donna, is that I can put those graphs and they can draw on the graph on the coordinate plane. I just feel like, because that's something that, like, I just could never, you know, like even on a whiteboard at school, you know, you usually the little whiteboards you hand them don't have a graph, have a coordinate plane on them. This way they can graph lines. Exactly. And the visual is really good. Thank you, Ellen. Sometimes I think I should just go work for Whiteboard FI, huh? I love them so much. I know, I'm just kidding. I feel like there's some things I get so excited about it. I know, get stock in it. That's exactly right. Oh my gosh, if we had stock in Whiteboard and Kahoot a couple years ago, right? So thank you very much, everybody. I hope that that everybody enjoyed the presentation and that you guys learned something, and you can take this away. If you take one thing away, right, today from all of your sessions.
I want to thank you so much. This is an incredibly valuable tool that, my gosh, I'm sorry I'm not a teacher right now.
There we go.
And thank you for walking, you know, through the process and then giving all of our participants an opportunity to, you know, just walk through it themselves, and just what an incredibly easy tool it is to use, but
right,
how much it can do for you and for your students. I know as a math teacher, students can be a little reluctant to sort of put themselves out because they don't trust themselves with, you know, putting out the wrong answer. But the fact that only the teacher knows what they've done is great. I think it can really improve a student's, you know, self-confidence and their abilities to do work and just to grow in their learning. So thank you.
Yes, and that's exactly, I think that out of all the times that I've used it, the GED program at HCC was the best because they were adults who wanted to learn, and they wanted me to give them feedback, and they wanted that encouragement, and they wanted to learn how to do it, and they wanted the practice, and they wanted to be forced to practice. So it did all those things. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the great encouragement too. You guys were really nice. And I loved all the participation. I mean, we were worried that some people wouldn't go on and want to be a student. So you guys did really good on doing that. Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks for being here. Yes, and you can definitely use it.
I will put the evaluation, the feedback survey link in here again. Here you go. And again, if you need proof of participation, we just ask that you fill it out once. And again, give us about a week for us to get those out to you. And we hope to see you in other sessions. And again, thank you everybody for your participation. You were a great group to work with. Thank you for your input, for your questions. And especially thank you, Cheryl, for sharing this incredible tool. So hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you all.
Thank you. And Susan, yeah, I'm so excited that you figured that out. I'm going to go in and do that too now. So thank you for teaching me that. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, thanks, Ramona.
All right, thank you.
So do I